Today's video is starting a bit different. No, I haven't abducted a random baby and taken a picture. That is indeed mine. My third baby boy, born on Sunday. My wife did a great job. There she is. She's still recovering, but doing fine. But therefore, if you see me looking a little bit tired, stumbling over my words, dropping some terrible jokes, then you know it's business as usual, and therefore everything's fine my end. Now let's dive into some chess here. So what have we got today? It's another titillating Tuesday game, late edition, played Tuesday 25th of Feb, and of course it's the world's best two blitz players at the moment with the white pieces. It's Hikaru Nakamura, and playing with black, the one and only world number one Mushrooms Carlfish. This is a great game, and we see something done by Magnus Carlsen that you just never see him do, right? So let's have a look. We see pawn to banana hammock 3 from Hikaru. Now Magnus takes the center. This bishop tucks into the hammock. The knight develops, and now the explosive c4 is played, and it stops Magnus from erecting the big black center. Very prudent move. So Magnus goes for pawn to goat 6. Now we see e3. This one tucks in, and now an absolute avalanche as the ponies develop into the game. Hooves thundering, and d4. Some of the spectators have had enough at this point.
I mean, d4 move, it just wouldn't even cross my mind. Very often one move is enough indicator. It's just like impossible to find d4. Absolutely impossible. Let's check if it's the main move, if it's the best move. It's second line, yeah. No, I mean, one move, clear indicator to me. I mean, it wouldn't even like cross remotely my mind, such move. I mean, even in classical game, I'm not sure. In Blitz, no chance at all. So everything is very clear to me about this game. I report, I block, and report.
Who finds that move? We now see castles played, bishop e2, rook e8, and there are different ways to go here, right? What does Hikaru do? Brave boy. He takes the pawn recaptures, and chops off the queen, saying to Magnus, I'm willing to grind like a grandma with you deep into the endgame here. So rook recaptures, he's world number one, of course he played it. a3 takes away a square from the knight, and now best is bishop f5 apparently, using this juicy diagonal. White would have to spend time chasing, but okay, not played. Magnus goes for the committal e4. Sure, this one's now stumbling back, which looks nice, but the pawn's quite extended. It's defended like this now, but h3, and bam, g4 on the way. That's unpleasant, so Magnus shuts it down, but now, after the and it's not Christmas, you should play knight e5 here. You head for this tender square. This is how the line could go, opening the bishop, opening this knight, something like this, and even though this pawn's quite overextended, you can win something here, and apparently this is how black gets counterplayed despite being a pawn down. We'll pause the line there. Have I counted that correct? Yes, pawn down, but this would have given more counterplay. However, Magnus, he plays h4, looks so natural, but Hikaru finds the great move here. He plows forth with Gary the g-pawn. Of course Magnus takes on croissant. It's even forced in some countries. Now you see recaptures, g4 on the way, and it's unavoidable. Now Magnus centralizes that steed. We see the advance, this one dropping back, but look, suddenly this is just way overextended. It's dropping. You could already take, but this one is played by Hikaru. And actually sidelining the knight is the best way to go here. Normally it's a boo-boo, but this time it heads for this square and it creates some trickery. But okay, Magnus instead completely forgets which way his pieces are supposed to move. This one now drops, and Hikaru is a juicer to the good. We see bishop f5, opening up the tension between these rooks down the open file. Now h4 defends this one, but also gets out of the gaze of this bishop, and after after pawn to c ships, preparing a pony maneuver, we see one pair of rooks going into the blender. Now this one backwards. Why is Hikaru doing that? Well, he's free to square. We're about to see it. Knight c7 played, knight c to e4, and would you look at this? Knight e6. When the heavy piece is away, the ponies will play. Keep your eyes on those, because after rook d1, we see these ones off the board, and we see this intricate maneuvering now between all of the horses. I mean, really reminds me of how Fabi, Alireza, Hikaru love to practice together with their horses. They spend a lot of time doing so. Knight d7 now from Magnus, and we see the bishops leave the board, king recaptures, and knight d6, and the structure is horrible. If you go b6, then there's knight c8 ideas, and the king can soon march in. It's really unpleasant. So Magnus instead drops this one back to defend here, again giving us the triple stack. Now bishop g4 prepares to win a piece, so Magnus counters, the bishop saves itself, going after the pawn there. Finally it advances, king e2, stops the knight from hopping in and attacking these guys, and after king f8, Hikaru sets a trap with bishop h3, because if you play this natural move, then you run into this, right? Gone to Forktown, population Magnus Carlsen, not ideal. So instead, we see a6 played. You could go b4 here, but Hikaru sets up the rock solid camel toe pawn formation over here. We see c5 from Magnus, and after knight c8, another pawn is dropping off the board. How do you defend it? No knight d7 anymore. This bishop is a monster, and if you push, well, you could win the pawn twice, or you could take like this and give yourself the outside runner. Very unpleasant. So Magnus just sacks the pawn, spawns a seahorse, it drops off the board. Hikaru's 2 to the good, but there's an unusual finish to come here, right? Because these two passed pawns could run one day. We see bishop c8 going after that one, saved, bishop b7, the knight hits b4, few more moves on the board here. We're going to advance the game a little bit. Hikaru does some jumping, they're running low on time, Magnus on 3 seconds, knight d6 to b7, winning on the spot now, going for these two pawns, but missed by Hikaru. He goes into this square, knight f7, now he puts the pony in the corner. I mean, knight in the corner, is there anything forlorner, as they say? But after knight d6, this one now retreats, this one and this one bounces back in. Still Hikaru's in the driving seat. He looks at this juicy square. Knight e5 from Magnus. He's thrashing for counterplay. We see a check. Now knight f4 check. The king goes. This one marches in. And a couple more moves is where the shocker comes. Takes his played. Knight d6, king g3, and Magnus Carlsen flags. I cannot remember the last time he did this against Hikaru Nakamura. He's so good in the low time scrambles, but he does indeed lose the game here to Hikaru on time. However, it was a lost position anyway. Ultimately, king's going to march in as soon as one of these give ground. Maybe you liquidate a pair of pawns first, but this is a winning position because the bishop stronger than the knight, especially on the open board with multiple pawns at play, pawns on both sides. We won't start clicking through lines. There are many, and white's completely winning. This is the final position. Hope you enjoyed the game, and have a look at the video on screen if you didn't catch the epic battle between Hikaru and Magnus from this year's Chessable Masters. What a contest. Thanks a lot and see you soon. Cheers.